Well, it's the beginning of a new week and one where there's no baseball. We are in the midst of the offseason right now, and we are doing a crossover. We're going to be handing out awards, we're going to be making predictions, and we're going to be reviewing the team that's on everybody's mind. That's the Arizona Diamondbacks. We're doing a Locked On MLB, Locked On Diamondbacks crossover. Hello, baseball fans. Welcome to Locked On MLB, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. This is the daily podcast. We talk about all of Major League Baseball. I am your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Check it out. You can always call me Sully. This episode is being dropped on the 14th day of November, 2022, and we're here doing a crossover with Mr. Baja Galup over there, the host of the Locked On Diamondbacks podcast. What's your name, sir?
I am Miller Thomas, host of the Locked On Diamondbacks podcast. Like you just said, you can follow me on Twitter if you want, at CreatorThomas24 if you want to get around to it. You can follow the show account, Locked On Diamondbacks, Twitter, Instagram, and like all the other Locked On hosts, we are also on YouTube, Locked On Diamondbacks there as well. We're getting close to 200 subscribers, so please go ahead and subscribe on YouTube.
By the way, my apologies for last week's episode that we did with the two of us, where there was a little bit of a sync issue. Millard was perfectly synced, but I set mine to Godzilla movie, where my mouth didn't exactly match the sounds going through. Is that a dated reference? Does anyone know the Godzillas? Oh, they used to poorly dub them, and people's mouths would be moving, and it would have nothing. There was no correlation between the sound and the dialogue you heard, and Godzilla, that sort of thing.
I've seen all the old classics, Sully, but they also just came out with the reboots in the last few years too. Godzilla versus King Kong. Did you see that one?
Yeah, I did. I mean, yeah, and I saw the one with Heisenberg. I saw the one, the Godzilla King of the Monsters, which I had a really fun time watching, because it had some of my favorite Godzilla. I grew up on Godzilla films, so you saw like really good quality. Godzilla and Rodan and Mothra and King Ghidorah were four of my favorite monsters from those movies. You had a wonderful cast, including, the coach from Friday Night Lights and 11 from Stranger Things. Do you know where? So I grew up in the suburbs of Boston, and two things were constant. I was watching the Red Sox on Channel 38, and I was watching Creature Double Feature with Godzilla films on Channel 56. Where do you think the final battle of Godzilla King of the Monsters took place?
I'm going to guess Japan.
Over Fenway Park in Boston. It was a complete Voltroning of everything of my childhood in one movie. So you're darn right I enjoyed that film. But this is not Locked On Godzilla, which, by the way, I could probably do. This is Locked On MLB, Locked On Diamondbacks crossover. Hey, we are in the middle. We're just starting the offseason, and there's one last piece of business to take care of the 2022 season. The victory parade, I always consider to be like, that's the end of Star Wars when they're handing the medals out to Luke and Han, and eventually to Chewie. I think he had his mail. But and that's one of the, that's like the finale of the season. But then there are the awards, and there are finalists. I did a whole thing the other day where I feel we should have a award ceremony like the Oscars or the Emmys or even the ESPYs, where we hand them out the day before the World Series starts. We should know who the MVP is during the World Series and everything like that. And it makes it less confusing because people, hey, why didn't Dusty Baker win? He won the World Series. The regular season awards, everyone, it's less confusing. But I made some of my predictions before. I want to hear some of your predictions. And so let's go through the finalists. I like that they have finalists. Let's go through the Manager of the Year ones first.
All right.
And I guess I didn't make my predictions. I picked who I think should win, I guess. So I haven't made my predictions. So Terry Francona of Cleveland, Brandon Hyde of Baltimore, Scott Service of Seattle are the three finalists in the AL Manager of the Year. Who do you think will and who do you think should win?
I'll be honest. If you asked me before the finalists came out who the manager of Baltimore was, I don't think I would have given you an answer. I don't think I really knew who Brandon Hyde was. So good shout out to him that he's a finalist because I had no idea who that was before seeing this. But if I had to give out the AL Manager of the Year award, I think it's really simple for me. I love Terry Francona. Like you and I grew up Red Sox fans, so big soft spot for Tito. But I think I have to give it to the guy who broke the longest playoff drought in sports history of what we just saw with the Seattle Mariners. So I have to give to Scott Service. Maybe he wasn't even as good as a Terry Francona, but if you could lead a team that hadn't made the postseason like over 20 years back to the playoffs and actually have like a pretty good run when you get to the playoffs, I'm going to give it to Scott Service for this year.
All right, I think he's going to win. If I had the vote, I'd say Francona because they were a team that was bottom 5 in payroll and were tied with Minnesota for first place going into Labor Day, and they just bombarded Chicago and Minnesota and won with a week to spare. And I think the fact he was able to do that with a bargain basement team, I would give it to Francona, but I agree with you. It's going to go to Service. And I have no problem with it going to Service. I think what Francona did was terrific, especially being handcuffed by that payroll. The National League is strange because this is the one where people go, what? Because remember, folks, it's a regular season award. Dave Roberts of Los Angeles, Buck Showalter of the Mets, and Brian Snitker of Atlanta. Who do you think?
I mean, the Dodgers had one of the greatest regular seasons of all time, but I look at the talent on paper, like that's a team that should win that many games. So for Dave Roberts, I don't think the level of difficulty is really there. Brian Snitker, I thought he did an amazing job. The Braves are maybe the best team in baseball the last 3/4 of the season, but I'm going to give it to Buck Showalter of the New York Mets because I felt like he changed the culture. He's a big boy. He wears big boy pants. When he comes in there, they're just a different vibe, a different aura. You got bounce back seasons from guys like Francisco Lindor. Like he seemed to really empower his players and put them in really good positions to win. And I just felt like when you have him as your manager, they're just a whole different vibe surrounding your team and you just get taken a lot more seriously. So I'm giving it to Buck Showalter of the New York Mets.
By the way, that would be his 4th manager of the year with 4 different teams. If that's not a Hall of Fame candidacy coming together, I don't know what is. That doesn't even include his 100-win season managing the 99 Diamondbacks. I think you're right. I think Showalter is going to win. Again, not to be contrarian, but what Snitker did with the slow start that they had and playing 800 ball basically down the stretch, I would not stun me if Snitker wins it. All 3 of those managers have won before, so it's not like someone's going to be denied their legacy. I would have no problem with any of those 3 winning. I think it's going to go to Showalter. I would probably vote for Snitker, but you can convince me either way. This one's the toughest one to predict. Moving on to the National League Rookie of the Year, Brendan Donovan of the Cardinals. Congratulations, you're a Rookie of the Year finalist. Now sit down. You're not winning anything. Michael Harris, the second, not the first, and Spencer Strider, both of Atlanta, are the 2 front runners. And I'll just tell you that, to me, it's a complete coin toss. I think both made an impact. Both were very good. I would probably give it to Harris today, but you could just as easily convince me of Strider. Either one could win.
Yeah, this one is going to be tough. It's going to an Atlanta Brave. We know that. And Brendan Donovan.
Very brave prediction on your part. Very brave prediction on your part.
Very. Hot take there is going to Atlanta Brave. Brendan Donovan was good. I'm more mad about Jake McCarthy not being that 3rd finalist, but I can't argue Brendan Donovan was good. Also, the Cincinnati Red starter Lodolo was a pretty good candidate as well. Jake McCarthy, 20+ stolen bases, one of the fastest players in baseball. Should have been more maybe in consideration. Just want to shout him out real quick. But back to the topic at hand, which Brave should have won it? I mean, this one's really close. Spencer Strider had a fantastic season as a starting pitcher, almost 14 strikeouts per 9 innings, set the Braves franchise record with like 17 strikeouts in one game at one point this season. But I think I'm going to give it to Michael Harris because I think the fact that he was a center fielder, I think he makes a little bit more of an impact day to day for the Braves. And he did lead all rookies in WAR, a stat I don't love, but it's still like a little fun fact for himself. And he had basically a 2020 season with like a 300 average and an 850 OPS. He basically put up all-star numbers as a rookie. So I'm going to give to Michael Harris, even though it's like razor thin between him and Spencer Strider.
Yeah, I think you're right. But I get either one. Okay, let's blast through this. I mean, this one should not be
All
a
right.
long conversation. American League Rookie of the Year, Stephen Kwan, Julio Rodriguez, Adley Rutschman. Do we have any controversy on this one?
No, I think we're all giving it to Julio Rodriguez. I mean, basically had like a damn near 30-30 season and was the best player in the lineup that made the playoffs for the first time in over 20 years. As a rookie, Adley Rutschman's going to be one of the best catchers. He's the next Buster Posey or whatever. Stephen Kwan had himself a nice season as well, but I think this is going to be borderline, if not unanimous, for Rookie of the Year in the American League.
Yeah, I agree. I think that is an absolute surefire bet that he is going to take that spot. And by the way, if you're going to be making any bets, get it ready.
Hold on.
Caught you off guard? Did I catch you off guard?
Hey, there we go.
Hey, got a bet online. Get your latest odds and trends at the number one source for sports betting information, stats, and analysis. You can find out about every professional and amateur league out there, from football to basketball to soccer, and even esports. They've got it all at betonline.net. And if you love sports podcasts, you'll find those at BetOnline as well. They're always the fastest and easiest way to get your betting fix. So head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more. BetOnline, it's where the game starts. Thanks so much for making Locked On MLB your first listen today. For your second listen today, check out Locked On Diamondbacks. Then go check out Locked On Sports today. From the games that matter the most to the biggest stories in sports, go beyond the scoreboard, behind the scenes with local experts and insights only Locked On can provide. Locked On Today is available on this app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. Let's just quickly blast through some of these other ones here. The other really no-brainer. By the way, congratulations to Max Fried and Julio Urias for being National League Cy Young finalists. It's Sandy Alcantara of Miami.
Yeah, he's the runaway. The real debate was, should a Zach Gallen been the fourth finalist? Should he have taken the Max Fried or Julio Urias spot? I made the case on the podcast the other day. I really want to be up in arms, but when you really look at the numbers, it's dangerously close between a Fried and a Zach Gallen. So I can't be too mad that Fried is named a finalist over Gallen, but I still think Gallen's season was slept on. Go look at the numbers. He had 1 point, went over a month without allowing an earned run. I think he's going to be a finalist next season. Potentially win a Cy Young award.
Zach Gallen should have been number 2, in my opinion.
Okay, there we go, Sully.
I would have knocked off Julio Urias.
That's fair.
Who had a good year, but I mean, to me, Urias and Fried should have been battling for third place. Zach should have been right behind Sandy Alcantara.
I agree.
And I think the fact that Fried and Urias were doing so for winning teams may have helped, but Alcantara played for the freaking Marlins. No, I totally agree with you. He was a difference-making pitcher.
I think that's the main reason, because Fried and Julio Urias were on like 200-win teams that made the postseason. I think the D-backs are more competitive. He would have gotten a few more looks maybe, but Gallen led the league in hits per 9, led the league in whip. He had at 1 point 44 straight innings pitched without an earned run. Like, Zach Gallen's season was really incredible. Zach Gallen knows he's slept on and he knows he might be overlooked, but I think with Brent Strom now as the pitching coach, we already saw what year 1 Zach Gallen looks like under Brent Strom. I'm very curious to see what year 2 looks like. And Merrill Kelly, he's not going to be a finalist, but I think he could be finishing the top 10 of Cy Young votes for the National League as well. He's a workhorse.
Yeah. Now, I think the most slighted person in the month of November has been Framber Valdez, because I think Framber Valdez should have been the World Series MVP, and he should have been a Cy Young finalist, and he got neither. Again, Dylan Cease, Alek Manoah, both had fine years. Valdez's teammate, Justin Verlander, is probably going to win, but I mean, I could have made a case for Valdez to win the Cy Young Award, let alone be a finalist.
Yeah, Valdez, I think, potentially should have been a finalist over Alek Manoah. I think that top 4 in the American League was incredibly close. Valdez, I think, set like a major league record, or one of the greatest seasons of all time in terms of how many quality starts he had in the season. I think he might have set like a major league record for quality starts consecutively. And he also led the American League in complete games, innings pitched, shutouts, batters faced, and home runs per 9 innings. So Valdez had himself an incredible season. Manoah was right there. I mean, he had a better ERA. Dylan Cease, I think, was maybe the biggest workhorse we saw in the American League this past year. So I definitely have him as a finalist. I agree with you. Valdez should be the other finalist. But Justin Verlander, even though he only pitched like 175 innings because of injury, I think he was just so much better in the innings pitched than everyone else. Led the American League with a 1.75 ERA, which is insane for a 39-year-old pitcher coming off the injury he had last season where he basically didn't pitch the whole year. So I'm giving it to JV for the season he had and still being an ageless wonder at damn near 40.
Yeah, I would give it to him too. I'm just surprised that Valdez didn't get the love.
That's fair.
I'm a very fair man.
I think it's harder to be a finalist when you're like the number 2 starter in your rotation, despite being, maybe the number 2 pitcher in the American League.
Okay, the National League MVP, you have the 2 Cardinals, Arenado and your buddy Goldschmidt, and then you have Manny Machado. I think you can make an intriguing case for any one of those 3. What do you got?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the easiest to wipe off Arenado because I don't think he was the best player on his team, so it's hard for me to give him the MVP. Manny Machado, I thought maybe is the closest to a Paul Goldschmidt. I'm giving it to Goldie, not just because he's the former D-backs guy and the Locked On Diamondbacks guy, but he was basically for most of the season, the guy leading the Triple Crown race. I thought he just across the board had the best offensive stats. Maybe Manny Machado had a tougher workload without Fernando Tatis there pre-trade deadline, but after the trade deadline, he was able to get some more help in there. I thought Paul Goldschmidt from start to finish was just the best overall player, and the Cardinals kind of had like a better season than the Padres as well. So I'm giving it to Goldie, who also won a Gold Glove award. I know Nolan Arenado won the Platinum Glove. Some people think Nolan Arenado, his defense is more based on reputation than what he's actually doing nowadays. I haven't looked into the numbers, but I know some Locked On hosts believe it's more reputation than actual production for Arenado when it comes to defense. But I'm giving it to Paul Goldschmidt, who I think had a fantastic season. And you look back at that Paul Goldschmidt trade for the D-backs, Luke Weaver, Carson Kelly, and Andy Young. Which would you rather have right now, that trio or Paul Goldschmidt, who's still winning MVPs this many years later?
I'm going Goldschmidt on all the accounts. The great debate is on the AL MVP. By the way, congratulations, Jordan Alvarez, for being a finalist. Now sit down.
Okay.
Judge and Ohtani, because Ohtani is a very good hitter and a very good pitcher, he adds value to a team that it would take a historic season to knock him off of the MVP perch, in my opinion. And guess what? That's exactly what Aaron Judge did. I think anything short of the season that Aaron Judge had, I would be completely in the Shohei Ohtani camp. Kind of like Miguel Cabrera 10 years ago winning the Triple Crown over Mike Trout was what clinched it for me. A truly great all-time season. This is not at all a slight on Shohei Ohtani, but I believe that this is Aaron Judge's award.
I think you and I are lockstep on this. I'm sorry, Angels fans. Basically, how I feel is every season we should come into the year where Ohtani penciled in as the MVP, like you're saying. And then if someone has a historic season like Judge just had, then I think he should be awarded the MVP because I think what Judge did for the Yankees was a little bit more valuable than what Shohei Ohtani did for the Angels, because I don't think the Yankees win as many games without the offense that Aaron Judge was able to produce on a night-to-night basis. I think actually, I don't like to play the hypothetical game, but I think they needed more of the offense from Judge than that duality that Ohtani could have brought to the New York Yankees team. And I'm not saying if Judge is on the Angels, they're all of a sudden a playoff team or anything like that, but I think Aaron Judge meant a little bit more to the Yankees team because I really felt like Aaron Judge tweaked an ankle, hurt himself, was out for a couple months. Like, I just don't know where they get the production from with Stanton in and out the lineup. You're counting on like a mid-30s Anthony Rizzo to all of a sudden be your offensive producer, or Josh Donaldson. Hopefully he still comes around 12 months later after the trade. Like, if Aaron Judge got hurt, I felt like they would have had nothing in there. And when you consider like it was I don't want to call it like the clean home run record or anything like that, but it is the Yankees franchise home run record, and we know how many
the American League home run record.
Yeah, and it's the American League home run record. So we know how many all-time greats the Yankees have had, and this was the best home run season we've ever seen from that. And it was one of the best home run seasons we've seen since like the Barry Bonds or the last 20 plus years, however you want to, arbitrate the years as well. So I'm giving it to Aaron Judge. I'm sorry, Otani, you're going to win it pretty much every other season. I think you should be penciled in every year. But if someone has a historic season like Aaron Judge did this past year on a team that makes the playoffs, like I still value team success. Like I know one player can't make the difference, but if a guy's having that kind of incredible season on a team that's making the playoffs versus a guy that was on a team that got his manager fired, I'm still giving it to Aaron Judge, even though it's not Otani's fault that his team wasn't good.
Well, that brings us to another question here, because I think that the single most important free agent we have out there is Aaron Judge. And he did not accept the 5-6 year offer they gave at the beginning of the year. So I'm going to see how I can do this year. Whoopsie, at 62 homers. I predict he's going to go back to the Yankees, because I think the Yankees realize that, like a game of Jenga, if you remove Aaron Judge from this team, yeah, they won 99 games this year, but I think that they know that this offense is razor thin if you remove Aaron Judge from it. And if he leaves, I don't know exactly how wins above replacement is calculated, but I'll do my own calculation. I think they'll go from 99 wins to 2 or 3 games above 500.
Oh,
This is a borderline playoff team if you remove him from it. Do you think he's coming back to the Yankees?
Yeah, I think he's coming back to the Yankees too, because if you're the Yankees, like what kind of hit does that do to the Yankees brand? If you're a team with the 27 World Series, you're trying to get back to the World Series, you're still trying to hold up this evil empire in the status of being the Yankees. If you let guys like Aaron Judge go and walk in free agency after coming off a historic season, a homegrown talent, if you let that guy go in free agency because you don't want to pay him that 7th or 8th year, you're going to look like a clown if you're the New York Yankees franchise. You can't let a guy like Aaron Judge go, especially when you consider the suitors that are going to go after the Yankees, because it's going to be the Dodgers of the world. It's going to be the New York Mets of the world. It's going to be the Boston Red Sox of the world. Like, it's going to be your biggest competitors, your biggest rivals, teams in your market, teams that you're battling against to be, the cream of the crop in the entire Major League Baseball. So if you're the New York Yankees, I don't think there's any chance in the world you can let Aaron Judge go, because I think it would do too much damage to the brand and the reputation of this Yankees franchise.